You don't need noise to prove your value. You don't need attention to prove your worth. You don't need applause to prove you're on the right track. In fact, the moment you start chasing those things, you move further from what matters. Most people think that being loud gets them somewhere, but the real power, it's in being silent, being grounded, being unshakable, making moves without announcing them, becoming someone who doesn't force life but aligns with it. That's when life starts to flow. That's when things begin to come to you without resistance, without begging, without desperation. Because the truth is, the quieter you become, the more you can hear, the more you observe, the more you understand what's actually required of you to create the life you want. See, we've been conditioned to believe that we have to fight for every inch, that we have to shout our intentions to the world, that we have to be seen, recognized, validated. But look around. The people who are truly building something solid, they aren't constantly announcing it. They're too busy doing the work. While others are talking, they're practicing. While others are promoting, they're preparing. They don't need to say a word. Their life says it all. Their energy says it all. Their results say it all. You don't need to be loud to be effective. You don't need to be seen to be powerful. You just need to stay focused. Being silent doesn't mean you're passive. It means you're intentional. It means you don't waste your breath. You don't waste your energy. You don't explain yourself to people who are not committed to understanding. You don't throw your pearls in front of those who will never value them. You preserve your power. You protect your peace. You keep your mind clear. You walk in your direction quietly, and you let your discipline echo louder than any speech could. Silence is where you grow. It's where you reset. It's where you connect with what matters most. Every day there's noise, distractions, opinions, pressure. The world is screaming at you to rush, to prove, to compare. But if you really want to rise, you've got to stop being influenced by all that noise. You've got to create distance between who you are and what the world expects of you. Because most of what the world expects will lead you into exhaustion, into emptiness, into chasing things that never belonged to you in the first place. And you don't want that. You want peace. You want clarity. You want power. Those don't live in chaos. They live in silence. When you stop explaining yourself to people who don't even listen, your mind clears. When you stop defending your path to people who never walked it, your strength multiplies. When you stop posting every move for strangers to see, your confidence grows. You no longer rely on the world to approve of your mission. You approve of it yourself. And that's when the energy shifts. That's when things begin to flow toward you, not because you forced them, but because you aligned yourself with them. You became someone who was ready, who didn't need the world to clap, who didn't need the world to understand, who didn't need to convince anyone. You just showed up. Every day, quietly, consistently, relentlessly. Most people waste their lives proving themselves to people who don't even matter, to people who are not watching, to people who are distracted by their own drama. And in the process, they forget to build the life they actually want. They forget to live. You can't afford that. You have to make a different choice. You have to let go of the need to be seen and focus instead on becoming. That's where the power is. When you become something real, the world can't ignore you. You don't need to ask for attention. You attract it. You don't need to beg for opportunities. You create them. You don't need to force connection. You become a magnet for what's meant for you. Let the others keep talking. Let them keep performing. Let them keep chasing. You, on the other hand, learn to move in silence. Learn to find strength in solitude. Learn to train when no one's watching. Learn to create without validation. Learn to believe in something before it shows up. Because real belief is silent. It doesn't scream. It doesn't demand attention. It just works every single day, quietly, faithfully, with a conviction that doesn't waver even when the world is blind to it. Success doesn't come to those who scream the loudest. It comes to those who prepare the longest, who stay consistent the longest, who endure the silence, who are willing to wait in the shadows while they sharpen their tools. Everyone wants the spotlight, but few are willing to sit in the dark and do the work. That's where you separate yourself. That's where you rise above, not in performance, but in preparation. And when the time is right and the stage is set, you don't have to announce your arrival. The world will feel your presence. Not because you said something, but because you are something. You became something. You built yourself in silence, and now your life speaks for you. Your results echo through every room you walk into. That's the kind of success that lasts. That's the kind of success you don't have to chase. It comes to you because you became a person it belongs to. But to get there, You have to stop chasing noise. You have to stop scrolling for answers. You have to stop explaining yourself to everyone. You have to sit still long enough to hear what your own life is asking of you, and then do that. Not for applause, not for credit, just because it's right, just because it's necessary, just because it's yours to do. There's a certain kind of power that comes from walking your path in silence. You begin to develop a calm mind, a patient heart, a steady hand. You begin to see things clearly. You begin to choose what really matters. And that clarity, once you have it, changes everything. You stop wasting time. You stop following trends. You stop chasing things you don't even want. And you start building something that's actually yours. You begin to notice the value in slow growth, in private victories, in daily improvement. You don't need to post about your progress. You live it. You don't need to argue with the doubters. You outgrow them. You don't need to correct every misconception. You rise above them. That's how you win, quietly, day by day, moment by moment, not needing the world to know, just needing to stay aligned, just needing to stay true. Because here's the secret, what you're looking for is already on its way, but it can't find you if you're always running, if you're always distracted, if you're always trying to prove yourself. Sometimes you just need to get quiet, let go of all the noise, and return to what's real. Your thoughts, your habits, your goals, your truth. When you align those with discipline, with clarity, with silence, the world begins to open up. Not all at once, but piece by piece. Because now you're living from a deeper place, a stronger place, a place that doesn't shake every time the world changes its mind. Stay quiet long enough to grow into the person who no longer needs external noise. Stay quiet long enough to understand what you really need. Stay quiet long enough to develop strength that isn't loud, but lasting. Most will never do this. Most will keep talking. Most will keep chasing. You don't have to. You can let all that pass you by. You can choose something better. You can choose to master the inner game. You can choose to let the silence shape you. You can choose to become the kind of person who doesn't need to shout their vision, because they live it every day. The world may not notice you now. That's okay. They're not supposed to. Not yet. Use this time. Protect it, guard it, respect it. Because the work you do in silence becomes the foundation for everything that flows into your life later. And when it does, it won't be luck. It won't be random. It'll be earned. It'll be deserved. It'll be the natural result of becoming the kind of person who no longer forces life, but flows with it. You begin to realize that the strongest energy in the room isn't the loudest voice. It's the quiet confidence. It's the person who doesn't flinch when things go wrong. It's the one who doesn't react to every little thing, who doesn't get shaken by opinions or setbacks. That kind of presence only comes from silence, from training yourself not to respond to everything, from learning to conserve your energy and use it where it matters most. That's power. That's maturity. That's discipline. When you stop reacting to everything, you reclaim control over your life. You stop being pushed and pulled by circumstances, and you start creating direction. Silence helps you think clearly. It gives you space to choose your response, to choose your thoughts, to decide what deserves your attention. And that decision over time shapes everything. You don't become a leader by shouting louder than the rest. You become a leader by standing still when others panic, by holding your vision when others doubt, by acting with purpose when others drift. And silence, real silence, isn't just about not talking. It's about creating space within, space between stimulus and response, space to think, to process, to strengthen your intentions. It's about moving through life without the need to explain every step. It's about building something so real within yourself that the outer world has no choice but to respond to it. That's what makes life start to flow. Not because you demanded it, but because you became aligned with it. It's easy to think that being loud equals progress, but real progress is almost always invisible. It's not glamorous. It's not on display. It's the morning routines no one sees, the late nights when you're learning, not scrolling, the decisions you make when no one is watching, the discipline you build when no one is clapping. That's the difference. Most people only work when they're seen. They only care when they're praised. They only improve when it's easy. But if you want something different, you have to be different. You have to learn how to be consistent without applause, how to be focused without attention, how to be strong without recognition. And when you can do that, when you can master that, you gain control over your own destiny. You become someone the world can't ignore, not because you asked for attention, but because you became undeniable. Now the world will try to distract you. It will try to convince you that you need more visibility, more followers, more noise. But none of those things lead to peace. None of those things guarantee growth. All they guarantee is more dependency on things you can't control. The real challenge is to walk forward without that need, to be okay with being overlooked, to keep going even when no one claps, to keep showing up even when no one cares, Because eventually, if you're consistent, if you're real, if you're grounded, life will catch up to you. It will begin to shift in your direction, not because you forced it, but because you earned it. You'll look around one day and realize that everything you were chasing is now chasing you. The right people start showing up. The right opportunities start unfolding, not all at once, but steadily. Naturally, because the energy you carry now is different. It's not needy. It's not desperate. It's magnetic. It's rooted. It's powerful in its stillness. And that kind of energy draws in exactly what's meant for it. But you have to be patient. You have to trust the process more than the timeline. You have to keep moving even when it feels like nothing's happening. Because something is happening inside of you, around you, in the invisible spaces of your life. The work you do today may not show up tomorrow, but it always shows up eventually. And when it does, you'll be ready. Not because you shouted for it, but because you built yourself for it. You'll stop asking, when will it come? And start living like it already has. That's when you become a different kind of person. A person who no longer chases, but chooses. A person who doesn't fight for scraps, but prepares for abundance. A person who walks calmly in the direction of their future. Not rushed, not panicked, not insecure, just prepared, grounded, steady. And don't misunderstand, being silent doesn't mean being passive. It means you've chosen a deeper kind of action. It means you've chosen presence over performance. Substance over show, mastery over noise. It means you're not in it for attention. You're in it for results. You're in it for impact. You're in it because you know you're meant for more than just being noticed. You're meant to build something that lasts. So you keep showing up quietly, powerfully, unshakably. You keep learning, you keep sharpening, you keep evolving. And with each step, you stop needing more from the world because you've found more within yourself. That's the shift. That's the turning point. That's when everything starts to move in your favor. Not because you shouted, but because you became. Keep your focus sharp. Keep your routine sacred. Keep your energy clean. Don't let the noise in. Don't let the doubt in. Don't let the fear in. Stay rooted in your process. Stay clear about your purpose. And let your life speak louder than your voice ever could. Because when the day comes, and it always does, when your moment arrives, it will feel like everything was always flowing in your direction. Because it was. You just had to become someone who no longer interrupted that flow with fear, noise, or doubt. You chose silence, you chose discipline, you chose patience. And now the universe responds not with noise, but with clarity. Not with chaos, but with momentum. Because you're no longer chasing, you're attracting. You're no longer forcing, you're receiving. You're no longer trying to control every detail. You're flowing with the timing of your own becoming. And in that stillness, you finally feel free. Free from the pressure. Free from the doubt. Free from the need to prove, because the real you, the one who shows up every day regardless of who's watching, that version of you, that's the one the world has been waiting for. And now that you've arrived here, in this quiet space where you no longer need to be seen to feel valuable, where your worth isn't tied to applause or attention, you begin to understand what it really means to live in alignment. You stop fighting the current. You stop trying to control what isn't yours to control. You start trusting yourself. And when you trust yourself, everything begins to feel lighter. Not because the world changes, but because your relationship with it does. You don't need to explain your every move. You don't need to argue your point. You don't need to chase every trend or rush to prove how fast you're growing. You just need to stay rooted in what you know is right, in the actions that strengthen you, in the thoughts that sharpen you, in the work that builds you. That's where life starts flowing. Not in the rush, but in the rhythm. Not in the noise, but in the calm that lives underneath it all. People might not understand it at first. They might question your silence. They might wonder why you've pulled back, why you've chosen to move differently. But that's okay, because this path isn't for their approval. It's for your alignment, your peace, your growth. And real growth often looks like stillness. Real transformation happens in the quiet places where nobody's watching. That's where character is built. That's where direction is refined. That's where power is earned. You stop getting caught up in things that don't matter. You stop explaining yourself to people who aren't listening. You stop wasting time proving things to those who already made up their mind. Instead, you double down on your purpose. You move with intention. You speak when it adds value, not when it adds volume. You no longer waste your energy on what drains you. You protect your space. You protect your mind. You protect your time. And when you do that, when you make those quiet, powerful decisions every single day, life begins to respond. The right people notice. The right ideas come. The right direction becomes clear. Not because you forced it, but because you made room for it. You cleared the clutter. You silenced the noise. You became a vessel for clarity, for momentum, for truth. And when you live that way, things don't just happen to you. They happen through you. Your silence becomes your sharpest tool. It becomes the space where your deepest ideas form, the space where your vision expands, the space where your strength regenerates. Most people don't understand that. They think silence means nothing's happening. But silence is where the most powerful things take shape. It's where the blueprint is drawn. It's where the foundation is built. It's where you prepare for the life you're about to step into. You're no longer caught up in trying to be everywhere. You're focused on being fully present where it matters. You're no longer exhausting yourself trying to be liked. You're focused on being real, being whole, being true. You know that 1,000 empty opinions can't compare to one moment of personal clarity, and that's what you've been creating. Clarity. You're no longer reacting, you're responding. You're no longer surviving, you're designing. And that's the shift. That's when you stop fighting against the current of life and instead let it carry you, because you're finally aligned with it. You don't resist, you don't panic. You simply move with precision, with focus, with trust. You know what you want, and you no longer need to broadcast it. You're not loud, but you're certain. You're not frantic, but you're steady. You're not passive, but you're peaceful. And when the world starts to catch up, when people begin to notice how far you've come, how grounded you've become, how strong your presence feels even in your silence, they'll ask what changed. They'll wonder how you did it. They'll want to know the secret, but there's no secret. There's just consistency. There's just inner work. There's just discipline. There's just trust in something bigger than noise. Trust in alignment, in truth, in timing. You stopped showing up to be seen and started showing up to be real. You stopped doing things for recognition and started doing them for transformation. And the world responded, not instantly, but gradually, steadily, honestly. Because life flows to those who are no longer leaking energy, trying to be everything, trying to prove everything, trying to chase everything. You stopped chasing and you started becoming. You started building without the need to explain. You started healing without waiting for permission. You started growing without broadcasting every step. You let your silence speak. You let your energy speak. You let your work speak. And the results? They speak louder than words ever could. Because the truth is, when you become the kind of person who doesn't need to shout to be heard, the world starts leaning in to listen. When you become the kind of person who doesn't need to be seen to make an impact, the world begins to notice anyway. And when you become the kind of person who walks quietly with clarity, power, and purpose, life begins to open doors you never had to knock on. And in that space, where you're no longer reaching, no longer striving, no longer proving, you finally feel what it means to be free. Free from the noise, free from the pressure, free from the pull of trying to be everything for everyone. You've chosen a better path, a deeper path, a quieter but far more powerful one. You've chosen to be silent, not out of fear, but out of strength. Not to hide, but to focus. Not to retreat, but to rise. And from that silence, everything begins to flow. Not because you forced it, but because you earned it. You earned it through discipline, through showing up when it was inconvenient, through saying no when distractions called your name, through choosing structure over chaos, patience over panic, and presence over pretending. You didn't just wish for this, you prepared for it. You took the path most avoid, the one without applause, the one without shortcuts, the one where the only reward for a long time was your own self-respect. And now, it shows. It shows in how you carry yourself. It shows in how you respond instead of react. It shows in how you walk into a room without needing attention, because your energy speaks for itself. It shows in how you treat people, not with ego, but with grounded presence. Because when you stop needing to prove yourself, you start becoming yourself. Fully, unapologetically, silently. You understand something now that few people do, that the highest form of self-respect is not performance. It's preparation. It's becoming so aligned within yourself that you no longer need outcomes to feel worthy. You don't rush things anymore. You don't panic when things move slower than expected. You trust that the work you've done, the values you've lived, and the clarity you've gained will carry you. And it does, because once you've built strength in silence, you no longer fear the storm. You've already met yourself in quiet struggle. You've already confronted your doubts. You've already endured the delay, the discomfort, the delay of reward. And now, when life begins to open up, when things begin to shift in your favor, you don't lose yourself in it. You stay steady, because you didn't skip the process. You lived it, you faced it, you grew through it. The truth is, the loudest people often have the least peace. They're addicted to external noise because they haven't made peace with the internal silence, but not you. You've learned to sit with yourself, to stay with your thoughts long enough to understand them, to question them, to break them down and rebuild better ones. That's why you're calm now. That's why you don't rush to speak. That's why you choose your energy carefully. You've made peace with the part of yourself most people run from. You don't just move differently. You are different. You're no longer driven by urgency. You're guided by clarity. You're no longer chasing validation. You're anchored in purpose. You're no longer reacting to life. You're leading your life step by step with intention. People often mistake silence for weakness. They think if you're not loud, you're not powerful. But they don't understand that real power doesn't need to yell. It doesn't need to announce itself. Real power is the ability to walk away without reacting, to stay centered when the world tests you, to move forward with faith when the path isn't clear to anyone but you. That kind of power is rare, and you've been building it. You've been training yourself to stop leaking energy into every opinion, every distraction, every demand for your attention. You've been preserving your focus, protecting your peace, sharpening your thoughts. And because of that, you're not just more focused, you're more free. You're not easily shaken. You're not easily distracted. You're not easily influenced. That kind of freedom can't be bought. It has to be earned through silence, through the inner work most people avoid. And now, the world responds to that, slowly but surely. Because energy doesn't lie. The life you live, the people you attract, the opportunities that come are a reflection of the person you've become. And you've become someone solid, someone consistent, someone who doesn't just hope, someone who builds. You've built a mindset that doesn't collapse under pressure, a heart that doesn't close in adversity, a vision that doesn't blur in uncertainty, and a spirit that stays calm, clear, and committed, no matter what. You didn't get there by chance. You got there by being willing to be quiet long enough to do the hard work, to listen instead of always speaking, to observe instead of always reacting, to heal instead of always performing. That's the real journey. That's the real reward. It's not what the world sees. It's who you've become in the process. And now, the path ahead feels different. Not because it's easier, but because you're better equipped. You're no longer searching for signs. You are the sign. You're no longer waiting for the green light. You are the one who decides when it's time to move and when it's time to wait. Because when you're silent, you start hearing what really matters. You start noticing what others miss. You become more aware of what fuels you and what drains you, what moves you forward and what pulls you back. You begin to see how much of life is noise and how little of it truly matters. And that awareness, that's what puts you in control. You make better decisions, you form stronger boundaries, you build deeper relationships, not with those who clap the loudest, but with those who show up consistently. You surround yourself with people who value peace over popularity, depth over distraction, truth over trends. And because of that, your environment starts to match your energy. You don't need a million voices telling you you're on the right path. You just need your own voice. And now you've found it. It's no longer drowned out by fear. It's no longer overpowered by noise. It's strong. It's clear. It's steady. That's the result of silence. That's the reward of inner work. That's the power of becoming so aligned with who you are that nothing outside of you can pull you off track. And when you reach that level of clarity, you stop needing to force life. You stop needing to chase everything. You stop trying to bend the world to your timeline. Instead, you align your life to your values. You show up every day with focus, with integrity, with calm strength, and you watch as life begins to meet you there. The right doors open. The right people stay. The right moments arrive. Not by magic, by alignment. You're not manipulating the world to make things happen. You're preparing yourself so well that when the world moves, you're ready. That's the flow. That's the effortlessness. That's the life you were meant to live. Not rushed, not reactive, but grounded, purposeful, clear. And it all starts with silence. Silence is what teaches you how to move without wasting energy. It teaches you how to walk into rooms without trying to be seen. It trains you to influence without controlling, to lead without demanding, to grow without boasting. When you're silent within, you don't need to convince anyone of who you are. You live in such a way that the results speak louder than any words ever could. That's what true power looks like. Not in volume, but in presence. Not in noise, but in discipline. Not in attention, but in alignment. Most people never give themselves enough quiet to figure out who they really are. They keep running, they keep talking, they keep performing. Because if they ever slowed down, if they ever sat still, they might have to face the questions they've been avoiding. But not you. You decided to sit in that silence. You decided to go inward. You asked the hard questions. Who am I when no one is watching? What do I truly value? What am I willing to suffer for? That's not weakness, that's courage. That's strength most people never develop. And because you've done that, you now live differently. You've let go of the need to compete. You're not measuring yourself by anyone else's timeline. You're not chasing shortcuts. You know that lasting success doesn't come to those who rush. It comes to those who build. It comes to those who stay calm when others panic, who stay grounded when others chase chaos, who stay focused when others lose direction. That's the reward of being silent in life. Not just external peace, but internal power. You start to trust yourself deeply. You start to see that you don't need to push so hard for what's meant for you. You just need to prepare, show up, and keep your heart and mind clear. And when you do that, life begins to flow to you. Not because you forced it, but because you became ready for it. Readiness changes everything. It changes how you speak, how you walk, how you decide. You don't waste energy anymore trying to impress people who aren't even clear on themselves. You don't give your time to distractions dressed up as opportunities. You don't explain yourself to people who don't even listen. You've risen above that. You've elevated beyond needing to win every battle. Now you win in silence. You grow in silence. You attract in silence. And that's when everything changes. You realize that the things you used to chase weren't even what you wanted. You were just conditioned to want them. You were reacting, not choosing. But now your choices are intentional. You know exactly what aligns with your peace. You know what deserves your energy and what doesn't. You know what to let go of and what to hold on to. That level of clarity only comes through silence, through the stillness where truth reveals itself. When you're silent, you become a better thinker, a sharper observer, a stronger leader. You hear the patterns behind people's words. You sense the truth behind their energy. You make fewer mistakes because you take time to reflect. You don't rush decisions. You let your intuition speak. And when it does, you move decisively. That's what makes you powerful. Not just what you say, but what you don't say. Not just what you do, but what you don't react to. There's a freedom in that kind of self-control. A peace in knowing that not every problem needs your attention. Not every opinion needs your reaction. Not every opportunity is aligned with your vision. You're not here to do everything. You're here to do the right things. And when you stay silent long enough, you start to know what those things are. Deeply, instinctively. You don't need to push the river anymore. You've stopped fighting the current. Instead, you've positioned yourself so that when the current moves, you're in the flow, aligned, ready, calm. That's what it means to make life flow to you effortlessly. Not by magic, by mastery, mastery of self, mastery of discipline, mastery of clarity. Now your energy is different. It's focused, it's grounded, it's valuable. People feel it when they're around you. They may not be able to explain it, but they know there's something solid about you, something rare. That's the silent work. That's the invisible progress. That's what happens when you stop performing and start becoming. You start becoming the kind of person who doesn't just survive storms. You grow through them. You don't fall apart under pressure. You refine yourself through it. You don't seek revenge. You build results. You don't argue to prove your worth. You live in a way that proves it every day. That's the shift. That's the evolution. That's what it means to walk through life with quiet confidence and unshakable clarity. You don't have to announce your growth. You don't have to broadcast your transformation. Just live it. Just embody it. Just keep showing up with strength and stillness. Let your results echo. Let your energy speak. Let your silence be the clearest statement of who you've become. That's how the right things begin to find you. Because you're no longer chasing. You're attracting. You're no longer desperate. You're disciplined. You're no longer waiting for the world to hand you something. You're building the kind of life that draws everything you need into it. This is what most people don't understand. Silence is not passive. It's not weakness. It's not avoidance. Silence is discipline. It's control. It's maturity. It's power. It's the foundation for every great transformation. And if you can learn to live in it, if you can learn to embrace it, you will see that the best things in life don't come to those who yell the loudest. They come to those who are prepared in silence, ready in stillness, clear in solitude. So keep going. Keep building quietly. Keep growing in the dark. Keep sharpening your mind. Keep strengthening your soul. Keep mastering your habits. Because when the world finally sees what you've been preparing, they won't just see results. They'll feel the weight of your silence. They'll feel the power of everything you've become. And that's when life flows to you effortlessly. Because you've earned it. Not with noise, not with shortcuts, but with the kind of daily effort no one else sees. The kind of mental discipline that most run from. You didn't post every step. You didn't ask for applause. You stayed quiet, kept your focus, and chose to become so valuable that the world would have no choice but to pay attention. Not because you asked, but because you grew. You grew into someone who doesn't need permission to move forward. You don't wait for motivation to strike. You built your own fire. And when that inner fire is strong enough, you stop needing validation. You stop explaining why you're doing what you're doing, because the people who get it don't need an explanation, and the people who don't get it aren't your concern. That's what silence does. It trains you to detach from needing noise to feel significant. It teaches you how to work without reward, how to grow without recognition, how to stay focused when nobody's clapping for you. And that kind of growth, that's the kind that lasts. That's the kind that makes life start to shift around you. Not because the world suddenly changes, but because you did. Now you're walking differently. You're no longer reacting emotionally to everything that happens. You're calm, grounded, present. You're not running from pain anymore. You're using it. You're not afraid of solitude. You understand its power, and you're not distracted by what others are chasing, because you're building something far more meaningful. And yes, people might not understand you right away, They might wonder why you're not as loud as you used to be, why you don't talk about your plans, why you seem different, but that's the point. You are different. You've traded hype for depth, attention for intention. You've stopped trying to be everywhere and decided to be fully here. And being here, fully present, fully focused, is the beginning of everything. That's where clarity is born. That's where your values become non-negotiable. That's where you stop getting pulled in every direction and start moving with precision. It's not about doing more. It's about doing what matters and doing it consistently. Because when you live in silence long enough, you begin to know exactly who you are. You know what you're building. You know where you're going. You don't question it every day. You're not looking for a sign. The path might still have challenges, but your mind is no longer shaken by them. You're no longer hoping everything works out. You're preparing for it to. And the more you prepare, the more life begins to open up to you. Not because things got easier, but because you got stronger. You developed the character to match your goals. You became the person your vision requires. And that's why you don't need to chase anymore. Because everything is flowing toward the person you're becoming. You stopped being in a hurry. You stopped trying to force timing. You stopped demanding results from a process you're only just beginning. Instead, you surrendered to the discipline. You locked into your routines. You trusted the work. You adjusted quietly. You endured. And that endurance, that's what makes you unstoppable. While others are burning out trying to prove themselves, you've learned how to conserve your energy. While others are caught in cycles of distraction, you've learned how to protect your peace. While others are desperate for attention, you've learned the value of being overlooked while you grow. And because of that, your roots run deeper than most. Your foundation is stronger than most. Your vision is clearer than most. And yes, there will still be noise. Life will still throw chaos your way. People will misunderstand your silence. They'll think it's weakness. They'll think you've lost momentum. But you'll know the truth. You'll know that silence was the very thing that sharpened you, strengthened you, grounded you. It's the reason why when others break, you bend. When others panic, you pivot. When others give up, you keep going. Because you didn't build your mindset in the spotlight. You built it in the shadows, in the early mornings, in the late nights, in the lonely seasons, in the moments where nobody else saw what you were doing, but you did it anyway. That's where real success is born. Quietly, consistently, silently. You're not trying to convince the world of who you are anymore. You are who you are, and that's enough. That's power. That's freedom. That's clarity. You're not looking to be crowned. You're looking to contribute. You're not chasing legacy. You're living it daily through your habits, through your values, through your silence. Because that's the real secret. When you stop trying to look powerful, you become powerful. When you stop trying to look successful, you start building real success. When you stop performing for others, you start becoming for yourself. And that kind of becoming, that's rare. That's magnetic. That's what makes life begin to cooperate with you, not fight against you. So stay quiet, stay disciplined, stay focused. Keep your head down when it matters, and keep your spirit high. Don't break your silence to prove a point. Let your results speak. Let your discipline shine. Let your growth do all the talking. Because in the end, what flows to you isn't based on what you say. It's based on who you are. And the world will always, always flow towards someone who knows who they are, what they stand for, and where they're going, even if they say nothing at all. That's when life begins to bend in your direction. Not because you shouted for it, not because you fought every battle, but because you aligned yourself with something deeper, something solid, something permanent. That's when the right people start showing up. The right opportunities start coming in. The right ideas begin to emerge. All because you were willing to be still, to be quiet, to get clear. You don't get that kind of clarity by being everywhere, doing everything, talking to everyone. You get it by stepping back, by protecting your space, by setting strong boundaries, not out of fear, but out of self-respect. Because silence isn't about shutting the world out. It's about shutting the noise down so you can finally hear yourself think. That's how you learn to trust your intuition again. You stop outsourcing your decisions. You stop second-guessing what you already know. You stop waiting for someone else to confirm what your soul already whispered. And when you operate from that place, that deeply rooted knowing, you become dangerous in the best way. You're not swayed by every opinion. You're not reacting to every trend. You're not changing direction every time it gets hard. You've grown past that because you understand the value of depth over speed. You understand that anything worth having takes time, and you're willing to give it that time. Not just to build something, but to become someone. And becoming someone takes silence because growth doesn't happen in public view. It happens in private. private. It happens when you're tired but still getting up, when you're unsure but still choosing discipline, when you're disappointed but still keeping your word to yourself. That's the kind of inner strength that makes life respect you. That's what makes success inevitable, because you stopped trying to control everything. You stopped resisting what didn't belong. You stopped needing immediate results, and you started aligning with truth, with work, with purpose. And when that alignment becomes your lifestyle, you'll find that things begin to move, not with force, but with flow. You don't have to chase attention anymore. The right people recognize real energy. They can feel when someone is living in truth. They can see when someone's focus is unmatched. That's what draws the right kind of respect. Not the loud voice, but the solid presence. Not the boastful tone, but the calm intensity. And yes, it takes strength to live this way. To not respond when they doubt you. To keep building when it feels slow. To hold your vision when no one else sees it yet. But you're not here to be understood by everyone. You're here to fulfill the purpose that was put inside you. And that purpose is not up for debate. So when things get loud, you stay calm. When they start talking, you stay working. When the world starts pulling at your focus, you double down on your habits. Because you've come too far to let noise knock you off your path. You've built too much silence to be rattled by someone's opinion. You now live from a different place. You move with intention. You wake up with clarity. You go to sleep with peace. Not because life is easy, but because you're in control of how you respond to it. And that response is everything. That's what separates the lost from the focused, the average from the exceptional, the noisy from the powerful. So keep going. Keep sharpening your mind. Keep fine-tuning your habits. Keep moving with quiet power. You don't need to advertise your every move. You don't need to explain your every decision. Those who understand don't need words. And those who don't understand, they're not your concern. Your silence isn't empty. It's full of work. It's full of energy. It's full of fire. You're just not wasting that fire trying to prove yourself anymore. You're using it to build something real, something lasting, something only those with vision can see right now. But soon, everyone will. Because when you live this way, when you live with silent power, consistent effort, and unshakable discipline, the world will eventually recognize it. But by then, you won't need their recognition. You'll already be living the life they didn't believe you could build. And you'll be doing it your way. Calm, clear, focused, silent. That's how you make everything flow to you effortlessly.